Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of ChimpChat. I am joined today by DiAlberto of HennepX, which is a CBD distributor located here in South Florida. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Thanks very much, Jeff. I appreciate you having me.
Sure. So let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about, which is COVID-19, because it's 24/7 right now. You can't turn on the TV or social media without seeing it. Obviously, dealing with CBD, how much impact can CBD have on COVID-19 coronavirus that you've seen? What kind of evidence and research is out there about this?
Yeah, so of course, we're limited by the FDA on what we can and can't say about CBD. So of course, the FDA disclosure will be on this at some point underneath the chat. But the biggest thing that I've seen is that people don't know that CBD is very high in antioxidants. So, every doctor or most doctors will agree that having more antioxidants in your body is a good thing. And they'll tell you vitamin D is good for it, vitamin C is good for it, vitamin E is good for it. But CBD, there's actually research out there that shows that it's higher in antioxidants than some of those other vitamins that they recommend. So we can't say that it'll prevent the disease. We can't say that it'll cure the disease. We can't say any of that because we don't know if it's true. Number two, the FDA won't let us say it. And that's fine. So the only angle that we've been able to come at it from is, listen, if you want to boost your body with antioxidants, here's another way to do it, or a way to supplement or complement what you're already doing.
Gotcha. So basically you're saying everybody should go out and smoke a joint to get lots of it. No. Okay. Obviously we know that
from the companies in the marijuana space that I talk to, that I've met from trade shows, everybody's at home smoking a joint. They're up 150 to 175% over the last 3 weeks.
Oh wow! All right. So I was making a joke that was based in truth. All right. So obviously there's a
you said it as a joke, but it's actually reality. Just like alcohol. Alcohol sales are through the roof right now.
Sure, because people are bored. They're home. They don't know what to do. They can't go to bars. They can't do a lot of those things. So let's talk about
weaken your immune system with some alcohol. Of course,
sure.
Logic, right?
So instead of weakening your immune system with alcohol, let's talk about the differences between CBD and pot. Talk about that, because I know a lot of people, there's still some misconceptions out there with regard to, because people are going to be less comfortable if they're not already, 420 comfortable. If they're not already there, then maybe CBD is a little bit more concerning to them, which probably is a little bit of a falsehood. So talk to a little bit about that.
I mean, I've found that the best way to explain it is the simplest way, because people are not scientists, they're not doctors. And if you can't explain it to your 10-year-old son, then you have no fighting chance of explaining it to just an average lay person that doesn't read medical journals all day. So it's real simple. Marijuana is high in THC and low in CBD. Hemp is high in CBD and has very low trace amounts of THC. So the way that I explain it is you're basically getting a lot of the same benefits that that are being touted by the marijuana companies, but you're not getting high to do it.
Okay, so basically CBD is the medical benefits of pot, but none of the potentially side effects with regard to getting high, if that's not something that you want to do. Now, you mentioned that it's low trace elements of THC, but can you get high from those low THC amounts?
We haven't had anybody get high off of our products. We haven't had anybody fail a drug test. But again, I can't guarantee anything, because the FDA won't let me guarantee anything. So I can tell you from anecdotal experience and peer-reviewed journals that I've read, and that our scientists that are involved with this project and our doctors that are involved with this have read, but I can't tell you unequivocally it's guaranteed not to get you high. You'd have to drink bottles and bottles and bottles, and that's not cost effective. If you want to get high, you should go buy marijuana.
Gotcha. But isn't the THC, and obviously, these are somewhat questions that I already kind of know the answer to, but isn't the THC a little bit necessary in order to get the medical benefits of the CBD?
So we've tried a lot of THC-free, 0% THC products, but we haven't gotten the same benefit. And the best description of why that's not happening came from a doctor down here locally, who's probably the most intelligent scientist I've ever met. He told me that when they take all of the THC out of the plant, they strip all the nutrients out of the plant. And you don't need to be a nutritionist to know that if what you're putting in your body has no nutrients in it, your body's just going to dispose it as waste, so you can't absorb it as well. So you give up so much absorption when you take out every single shred of THC. It's just really unnecessary. The only reason hemp was even illegal, or they made up that 0.3% THC thing, is because the DuPont company and Henry Anslinger 100 years ago wanted it to be illegal because they didn't want to have competition in the textile industry.
Interesting. So it's purely
so they lumped it in with marijuana because it looks and smells very, very similar.
But because of the versatility of hemp, that was ultimately what caused this to become a problem.
Right, because now they're making rope out of hemp. They're making concrete. They call it hempcrete out of hemp. It is a very versatile plant. It grows much faster than most plants. There are a ton of uses for it, not just, ingesting it or rubbing it on our elbow when it hurts or things like that, or taking a bath bomb and putting it in your tub and things like that. There's a lot of functional uses for hemp that go beyond it. And that's why ultimately 80, 90, 100 years ago, it was all political. And we won't talk politics on this show, I'm sure, but, somebody was paying somebody to make the law at that time.
Sure. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So getting back to the medical benefits of CBD, you talked about from a COVID perspective, the high antioxidants. I can't say the word properly, apparently. But we talked about the high antioxidants and the benefits to your health and to boost your immune system for kind of immune system sort of regulation, which is actually more important overall than just immune system growth. It's the regulation of your immune system. What are some of the other medical benefits of CBD as it pertains to, your body, healing, pain, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, obviously the biggest thing that everybody now knows if you've read an article about hemp or marijuana in the last 2 or 3 years is it's a natural anti-inflammatory. So if you have less inflammation in your body, whatever's aching you and paining you is reduced. And then obviously that translates into less anxiety because your body's not so tense that you're stressed, so you're going to have less anxiety and stress. And people that are taking our product call and text and email me on a daily basis telling me how much better they feel, how it's changed their life for the better. A big one is they're getting better REM sleep and they're waking up more relaxed and refreshed. And I don't know anybody right now that's, calm and cool and collected 100% of the time. So if you want to build antioxidants, lower anxiety and stress, get better sleep, then those are some of the additional benefits. Now there's studies out there that say it helps with Crohn's, which is actually why one of the reasons we jumped into this industry 2-3 years ago, because my closest friend on the whole planet, who's like my big brother, has Crohn's disease, and it helped him stop taking chemotherapy medicine, which was making him so depressed that we were worried about him.
Right.
So, and I know you've heard that story before.
I have heard the story. It's a wonderful story of how this one product kind of really changed his whole outlook in life, because it went from battling sort of the is the cure better than the disease kind of thing, or worse than the disease, and in this situation it almost was. And it was really making him completely miserable in life, and that you were worried about him killing himself. And now this sort of changed everything about himself. It's really it's a wonderful story. So,
well, he went back to his happy-go-lucky. He's a family man like us. He's got 2 young kids. He's been married for 8, 9, 10 years now. And I felt horrible. It was killing me to see my big brother. He's not blood, but he's my big brother. And it was killing me to see him that sad all the time. out of, and he's a hardworking guy. He was a banker for a long time. Now he's the COO of a medical device company. So, he's a hardworking guy. He's a great family guy. We do all kinds of hobbies and activities together. Our kids play together. Our wives are friends. And it was crushing me that chemo was ruining him that badly.
And then ultimately CBD, even before it was something that you started becoming a manufacturer and distributor for, he was doing it and he gave this a shot and it made a huge difference. It was really, it's a wonderful story. So, so you talked about it being a natural anti-inflammatory, which has a number of medical benefits. To people who are less comfortable with the idea of it, for whatever their holdbacks are, how does it differ from more of a traditional pharmacology anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen?
Well, I mean, ibuprofen and Advil and Tylenol, according to the studies out there, are very harsh on your stomach and your liver. So CBD actually has the opposite effect. Crohn's disease is a stomach disease, just like every disease. Everything starts in the gut. The food we eat and the other free radicals and the other pollution in the world that we're exposed to are hurting and damaging our cells in our body. So CBD is one of many different answers. That's a natural remedy. It grows in the ground. People are a little more comfortable with it. My dad is a great example. My dad grew up in an era, he's in his mid-60s. He grew up in an era where you were either a hippie or die-hard anti-marijuana. And he happened to be on the die-hard anti-marijuana side. So it took me, even when we started branding and selling these products a year and a half and change ago, it took me 8 months to get him to put some cream on his knee, that he has some arthritis in his knee. He's 65. He's spent his whole life playing sports with us and doing everything else that people do. And it takes a toll on your body. And I told him, I'm like, your knee will feel better. Just try it. And he's like, no. He couldn't discern between marijuana and hemp. And it takes some people a long time to get over the fact that we're not trying to get anybody stoned. Again, if you want to get stoned, go get a medical card if you need one, or fly to Colorado or go to DC or wherever it's legal and go buy marijuana. And he finally gave in because his knee was really hurting him one day because he tweaked it playing with my kids, his grandkids. And he put it on his knee, and 20 minutes later I got a call like, why didn't you tell me about this sooner?
Well, Dad, I've been telling you about this for a year. What's wrong with you?
Now he's a walking testimonial. He's probably one of my best salespeople. He doesn't work for us.
So talk to me about the various ways to use CBD, specifically, the HennepX brand. What are the various kind of modalities at CBD? I know there's, obviously you mentioned a cream.
They're putting CBD in pasta sauce in downtown Fort Lauderdale and ice cream in Delray. So they're putting it in everything.
Let's talk about more from a medicinal perspective. Okay. And I'm not trying to discredit what they're doing has potential value. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying that a little bit, but
no, you can say it. That's okay.
But obviously that feels more gimmicky.
Right.
Even if it has some potential benefits, it still feels gimmicky. If you're going to take a medicine, you don't, dip it in your applesauce unless you're giving it to your kid and he doesn't want to take it, or put in peanut butter for your dog. You take the medicine because that's the doses you can have control over what you're doing.
Right.
You mentioned creams. I know there's oil. What are the other things?
Yeah, so no, I'll give you a couple examples. I like the oil. I take the oil under my tongue every night before I go to bed. I have a herniated disc in my shoulder from an old car accident. I've got aches and pains from playing basketball and golf and soccer and other.
I've seen you golf. Sports. You're not playing golf. You're
listen, I've been practicing every day.
That's not the same.
I've been practicing every day since COVID started. And I've been working out of my house, so I'm taking you down when we get back to the golf course.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So you take it under your tongue. So where do you put it? Do you put it like on the back of your tongue? You put it on under? How do you actually do it?
It's simple. You shake up the bottle. You put a dropper full under your tongue. You wait 30 seconds. You swallow it. That gets you that absorption.
Okay.
For people like my wife that say, you know, like, I'm used to taking a pill for everything. She gets migraines. She has trouble sleeping, or at least she used to before I introduced her to, hey, why don't you use the soft gels? And a lot of our clients down here, specifically in South Florida, are what we like to think of as chronologically gifted. They're in their 70s, they're in their 80s, they're in their 90s, and they're used to taking 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 pills a day. So instead of try and get them to change their regimen and now put oil under their tongue, which is a foreign concept to them, take one soft gel before you go to bed. Let us know how you feel in a week to 3 weeks, because that's about the average time that it takes to build up in your body. You already have CBD naturally in your body. You have an endocannabinoid system, and all you're doing is adding more of a good thing. So it's not a drug. It's not a medicine. It is a supplement.
Okay. So you've got the oil, you've got the pill. You mentioned the cream. You don't obviously put that on your tongue or ingest that.
Right. The cream you just rub it on what hurts. You know, think of it as, I mean, 1 million people go to the chiropractor every day. Think of it as a better version of BioFreeze.
Okay, so it's BioFreeze or Bengay or Tiger Balm or one of those sorts of things.
Exactly. It's a natural version of that. All the ingredients are natural. It's organic, which is important to a lot of people. And yeah, we have the cream. We actually also have gummies, but I don't really tout the gummies all that much unless people are like, hey, you know what? It's a sweet treat, and I use it as that so that, you know, it makes me take it every day. Okay. Because like you said earlier, we're, you know, at least we pretend to be adults Monday through Friday when we're not playing with our kids on the weekend. You're looking at people that can take a dropper and put it under their tongue every day, or put some cream on their elbow or their knee or their neck or their shoulder when it hurts. So gummies are there because it may be the only way that people remember to take their CBD, in my mind. But we have them because people like them, and that's what they want to do. And you know, if they have to ingest a gram of sugar to take their CBD, then, you know, it's the lesser of not taking it at all.
So is there any concern that, obviously there's always concerns with regard to edibles in the marijuana world, that a kid, and we've heard horror stories and tragic stories where, you know, a young child sees gummies in mom or daddy's, you know, their stash, and says, oh, I want this, and they just eat it, and then it causes major issues. Is there any history, any recordation of that happening with kids with regard to CBD?
So first, just let me start by saying you have to be 21 to buy CBD. Now, do people give it to their kids for seizures and various other things? 100% absolutely, because they don't want to see their kid flopping around on the ground having a seizure. And if they can give them CBD, or even some parents give their kids low doses of THC, much higher than the legal limit in legal states, because it helps them. Now, I'm not going to tell you if I agree or disagree with that. That's irrelevant because I'm not their parent, so that's on their parents to make that decision. It is obviously in a child-proof container, and, you know, is there a danger? There's always a danger with anything if you take too much of it, right? I mean, that's everything in the world. If you take too much of it, it's bad for you. I don't know if that's the case with CBD, because I haven't heard of anybody taking too much or overdosing or having side effects on CBD or taking CBD. So it's a difficult question to maneuver around, but I don't think it's something people should really be scared of.
Okay. No, but I think it's a real question that people are going to ask in those sorts of circumstances, because, you know, we don't want to ever, you know, put our child at risk. I mean, you know, kind of allows me to pivot a little bit. One of the biggest obstacles or opponents for gun control is, you know, having a gun in the house increases the likelihood of gun-related incidents especially among children, it's something anywhere between 5 and 20 times, depending upon the study that you've seen. And I know that's an area that you're a certified firearms instructor and self-defense instructor. So I think that's kind of an interesting kind of parallel attached to that. So especially with the weirdest times in anybody's life that we're experiencing today, there's simply no, there's no precedent to what we are experiencing with coronavirus and COVID-19 right now. I know that gun sales have gone up dramatically, and specifically in all of the orders that I have seen, guns and firearm stores are considered essential. How much of that is political? Probably quite a bit.
But 100% is political. The gun lobby has $1 billion a day to get their agenda pushed. Just
Sure.
like pharmaceutical companies and other large, I mean, I saw a meme on Facebook that Donald Trump should outlaw soft drinks because they do more damage exponentially than COVID-19 ever could. We can go into all kinds of different extremes like that all day. But,
sure, and I had a Sprite yesterday, so.
And people are going to root for their sports teams, whether it's the Democratic sports team or the Republican sports team, whether they agree with all of their agendas or not. A lot of people are going to side with their team no matter what they do.
And I'm the ref. I think both sides suck.
I'm with you 100%.
But that's neither here nor there. So talk to me about, because people are potentially fearful of things escalating in a negative way. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that 99.999999999% chance that's simply not going to happen. It makes no sense given the current circumstances. But there is slightly more than 0% chance of that happening than it was a month and a half ago. Talk about safety of firearms in the home and how people can be responsible. I know this is kind of not what you do from a CBD perspective, which is what I brought you on to talk about, but I think it's somewhat relevant that people may want to experience that you have some insight on.
I mean, I worked for Front Sight in Nevada for 2.5 years as a personal defense with a handgun instructor. And most of what we taught was how to avoid a fight, not be a victim. Situational awareness is the best way to put it. So learning how to fight hand to hand, or learning how to use a firearm properly so that it's safe, and store it safely so that it's not around your kids. And so your kids know what to do if, God forbid, a situation arises where a window breaks on your slider in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., because if you can handle that situation, you still have a lot of other moving parts. I have 2 kids and a wife and a dog living in my house with me. So I need to not only make sure that they're safe from whatever the threat is, but that they're safe in general. So there's a lot of different safes out there. I know you mentioned when we were talking earlier about Bass Pro Shops is open, and gun stores and gun ranges and Walmart that sells ammunition and all these other places are open because they're essential. Whether they're essential or not is not for this discussion. It's above our pay grade, right? So, there's plenty. I have a gun safe. I have a gun locker. We have a couple of hidden safety tools that no one in the world, unless they were looking for it specifically, would even know that there was a lock and a gun behind the lock kind of deal. So there's definitely ways to make sure that you and your family are safe if you have a firearm in your house, or multiple firearms in your house. Because a couple of my friends that have taken my training classes, they'll buy their first gun and then 3 months later they've got 6. And they use it for target practice, or they go out in their land in the middle of nowhere and go camping, and they just feel more comfortable if they have a firearm, because a wild animal doesn't really abide by the rules of don't attack me, unless if you provoke it, then it might attack you. But some animals will attack you no matter what, like a wolf or a coyote could come after you or your family when you're on a camping trip completely unprovoked because it's hungry.
Right.
So, you know, you just have to be responsible and smart. And I'm a big proponent of, if you have a firearm and you're not training with it, you shouldn't carry it.
Okay. So let's talk about. Go ahead.
If you're not training with it, then you take it to the range, use it for sport, you know, shoot clays with it, but don't carry it like you're going to be able to defend yourself in a life-threatening situation if you don't train.
So when you say train, do you mean going to the gun range, or are you talking about more than?
No, I mean, going to the gun range is great, but let's say you go to the gun range and you stand there and shoot down range. That doesn't really qualify you to get it out of concealment, out of your holster, and then point it in the right direction and make sure that the threat is stopped. You need to practice those things because you're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to divert to your lowest level of training. So if you're not going to train with the gun, don't carry the gun.
Interesting. So let's take it. Let's talk about. You mentioned gun safes, that you have multiple. You have a gun locker. You have. For the uninitiated that happen to be watching this particular, interview, they just want one firearm for home defense in the God forbid situation. Okay. Mm-hmm. What is your best advice on that front?
I mean, usually what people use for home defense would be a 12 or 20 gauge shotgun, and they would use either personal defense, PDX ammo, or buckshot in that gun, because it'll have a smaller pattern. It's nearly guaranteed to stop the threat. So, if it's just a home defense situation, but you also need to figure out accessibility. If you've got kids in your house, do you build a false door into your headboard? Do you build one next to your bed? How can you access that firearm if, God forbid, you get woken up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning out of a REM sleep and you need to be on your game and ready to defend yourself and your family? Some people will prefer a handgun and for home defense, just because they can control where the fire goes a little bit better than if it's a shotgun. But we could debate that all day with people that are gun nuts or gun lobbyists or gun manufacturers. But it really comes down to, what are you going to be the most comfortable with, and what are you going to practice with? Because if you don't practice with it, it's a crapshoot. I mean, we had a gentleman who ran the facility there in Nevada that was a retired Chicago police officer, and he called himself unintentionally incompetent until he got into his first gunfight. And what happened in his first gunfight is the robber that he was trying to stop from hurting the people that he was called to respond to was worse of a practicer than he was. So he survived the fight, but it was out of pure dumb luck. I think the guy shot 12 or 13 shots at him and didn't hit once. And he had not practiced to the level that was necessary to get into that fight. So call it divine intervention, dumb luck, being incompetent, unintentional. He just didn't know what he didn't know about the stress of getting into a gunfight. And he was going to that fight prepared to get into a gunfight because of the 911 call. So that was when he started actually training with a firearm, and he eventually became one of only 58 combat handgun masters in the entire world. So now, if he got in that same fight, the gentleman, the criminal that was shooting at him probably wouldn't have even gotten shot off.
Wow. Interesting. It's interesting to understand what the difference between training is. I'm pretty sure that 99% of the people out there, maybe even higher, 99.9% of the people out there that kind of think about training with a handgun is exclusively they're shooting at a target at a gun range, and that's training to them. And it is to a degree. I mean, you're building up some measure of skill attached to that. But it's not what you're talking about. And I think what's fascinating, and once again, to reiterate to anybody that is still watching, still listening, that this is the entire point of any of this is to avoid it. It's more situational awareness, and something that Drew and I have spoken about, and we talked about it offline, and we talked about it long before this, is I hope to God I never am in a fight. the strongest likelihood that I'm never going to be in a fight. But if I am, I want to be prepared. It's basically,
I mean,
is that a pretty good summation to
well,
kind of?
it's like having life insurance. Life insurance is a huge waste of money until you need it.
Well, you never need it. I mean, like, in fairness, I would argue that life insurance is the most selfless thing you can possibly buy, actually.
Until your family needs
it.
God forbid.
Right. God forbid your family needs
life
it.
Insurance is a huge waste of money.
Term life insurance, sure.
Carrying a gun is completely unnecessary, 99.999 or whatever percentage you want to put on it, Jeff. And, just for the purposes of this conversation, let's say you're 99.99% chance not to get in a gunfight. And maybe, you're 99% chance not to die before you're 50, but you still have life insurance for your wife and kids. I look at it as, I'm not carrying a gun to ever get in a gunfight. I'm carrying a gun just in case somebody brings a fight to me that I don't really want and I couldn't avoid.
Gotcha. Interesting stuff, bud. Thank you so much for joining me today. Give everybody 30 seconds on HennepX and how to learn about your stuff, and I'll include that information in the description below. Go for it.
Okay, great. So, our website is HennepX, HennepX.com. All of our products are, of course, available on there, and we're still going to the post office every day, so you can order it. We are doing a kind of a COVID-19 coronavirus relief program as far as expenses go. So if you use the code HXFREE, so H is in Henry, X is in X-ray, free, you'll actually get a really special offer that we may never do again, but we realize that a lot of people lost their incomes or a portion of their income, so we want to try and help as best we can and still get these antioxidants that are valuable to you and your anxiety and your sleep into your body. So HennepX.com, use the code HXFREE, and then obviously we are a big following on Instagram. We're growing our following on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn as well, so you can check us out. You can read our Google reviews. We have, I think, 35 or 37 all 5-star Google reviews now. So our products are working. People are rebuying them and buying them again and again and again. So we obviously know we're doing the right thing.
Sounds good. And again, I'll include that information in the description below, everybody. Drew, thank you very much again for joining us. Everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you found this great, as interesting as I did. Until next time, be safe, be kind, be the community. Remember, pass the hat, help local businesses. A lot of local businesses are being hurt. And so helping them during these difficult times is kind of intrinsic upon all of us to get through all this together. Until next time, I'll see you again.